You know that moment when the entire room goes completely silent. When 23 people, all staring at you, and the only sound you can hear is your own heartbeat. That was me. Last Tuesday, standing in my sister's living room, holding a piece of paper that would destroy everything. My name is Sarah, and for 28 years, I believed I was the family disappointment, the accident, the mistake. My older sister Emma, she made sure I never forgot it. Mom and Dad were so happy, she'd whisper to me when I was 7. Until you came along. But here's the thing about DNA tests. They don't lie. And when I got those results back, 3 weeks ago, everything I thought I knew about my family crumbled. See, Emma had been planning this big family reunion. Our parents' 40th wedding anniversary. She'd invited everyone. Cousins, aunts, uncles, even people I hadn't seen since I was a kid. She'd been planning it for months. Sending out these beautiful, expensive invitations. Booking the fancy catering. Making sure everything was perfect. Just like Emma always was. But she made one mistake. She invited me. The family screw-up. The one who, according to her, ruined everything just by existing. She probably thought, oh, Sarah will just sit in the corner. Keep quiet. Maybe leave early like she always does. But that Tuesday evening, when I walked into that room full of people, I wasn't the same scared little girl anymore. I had evidence. And I was ready to use it. The conversation stopped the moment I cleared my throat. Emma was in the middle of her toast, something about family bonds and unconditional love, when I stood up. Emma, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Before you finish that speech, there's something everyone needs to know. She looked at me, with that familiar mixture of annoyance and disgust. Like I was some kind of pest that had wandered into her perfect party. Sarah, please, she hissed. Not now. Can't you see where I got a DNA test done? The words hung in the air, like smoke. Emma's face went completely white. Because she knew. In that moment, she knew exactly what I was about to say. And for the first time in my entire life, Emma was the one who looked scared. Let me take you back to the beginning. Because to understand what happened that night, you need to understand what my childhood was like. I was born when Emma was 12. And from day one, she made it clear that I was unwanted. My parents, Richard and Margaret, they were what you'd call comfortable. Dad owned a small construction company. Mom stayed home. They had their nice house in the suburbs, their 2-car garage, their perfect little family. Until I came along. Emma was the golden child. Straight A's, student council president, captain of the debate team. Everything she touched turned to gold. And then there was me, the surprise baby. The one who, according to Emma, ruined Mom's figure. Ruined their family vacations because now they needed a bigger car. Ruined Emma's chances of getting into her dream college because, suddenly, there wasn't enough money. You cost us everything, she'd whisper to me when our parents weren't listening. Mom cries about you when you're not around. I was maybe 6 years old when she started saying things like that. Here's the thing about being called the mistake your entire life. You start to believe it. I remember this one Christmas morning. I was 8. Emma was 20. She'd come home from college, and I was so excited to see her. I'd made her this little clay ashtray in art class. It was lopsided and ugly, but I was so proud of it. I ran up to her with this gift, wrapped in newspaper because that's all we had, and she looked at it like it was garbage. What is this supposed to be? She asked, not even taking it from my hands. It's an ashtray, I stammered. For your dorm room. Emma laughed. This cold, bitter laugh. Sarah, I don't smoke. And even if I did, I wouldn't use this. She walked away. Left me standing there, holding my stupid little gift. Mom saw the whole thing. And instead of defending me, she just sighed and said, "Sarah, honey, maybe next time ask what Emma might actually want." That was my childhood. Every accomplishment dismissed. Every mistake magnified. When I graduated high school, barely. Emma had just gotten her MBA. Guess which achievement got celebrated? When I finally got into community college, Emma was getting married to her college sweetheart, David, a lawyer. Of course, the wedding was this massive affair. 200 guests, open bar, live band, the works. I was a bridesmaid, but Emma made sure I knew my place. "Try not to trip walking down the aisle," she said during the rehearsal. "This wedding is costing Dad $40,000. The last thing we need is you ruining it." $40,000. I remember that number because it was more than I'd ever seen in my life. And it was also exactly what my parents told me they couldn't afford when I asked for help with college tuition. "Money's tight, sweetheart," Dad had said. "Maybe you can get a job, work your way through school." But for Emma's wedding, they somehow found $40,000. Over the years, the pattern continued. Emma got the down payment help for her first house. I got a $50 birthday card. Emma got family vacations, business class flights to Europe for her and David. I got forgotten birthdays. Emma got respect, admiration, love. I got tolerated. And the worst part? Emma made sure I knew that this was how it should be. "Mom and Dad work so hard," she'd say during family dinners. "It's not their fault they have to compensate for your failures." Compensate for my failures. Like I was some kind of debt they owed. By the time I turned 25, I'd basically given up on having a real relationship with my family. I showed up to holidays, sat quietly in the corner, left early. Emma had kids by then. 2 perfect little girls. And suddenly, she was the expert on everything. "Sarah," she'd say, bouncing her youngest on her knee, "you really should think about settling down. Find a nice man. Have kids. Give your life some purpose." Purpose. Like my life, without her approval, had no meaning. Let me know in the comments where you are watching this video from. I'd love to know. But 3 months ago, everything started to change. I was cleaning out Mom's attic. She'd asked me to help her declutter before she and Dad moved to that retirement community in Arizona. And that's when I found the box. The box was hidden behind old Christmas decorations. Dusty. Forgotten. But it had my name on it. Sarah's baby things written in Mom's handwriting across the top. I almost didn't open it. I mean, what could be in there? Some old baby clothes? Maybe a few photos? But curiosity got the better of me. Inside, there were the usual things. My hospital bracelet from when I was born. A lock of my baby hair. Some ultrasound photos. And then, at the bottom, I found something that made my blood run cold. A letter. Addressed to my parents. From a lawyer. The letterhead read, "Concerning the adoption of Sarah Michelle." Adoption. I sat there, in that dusty attic, reading this letter over and over again. It was dated 6 months before I was born, and it outlined the terms of my adoption. The birth mother was a 17-year-old girl named Jennifer. She was giving me up because she couldn't afford to raise a child. But here's the kicker. The letter mentioned another document, medical records, including a paternity test. My real father wasn't Richard. My hands were shaking as I dug deeper into the box. And there it was. A DNA analysis from 1995. Jennifer, my birth mother, had been dating 2 guys. She wasn't sure which one was the father. So they did a test. The results were clear. My biological father was David Morrison, Emma's husband. I stared at that paper for I don't know how long. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. David had gotten a 17-year-old girl pregnant in college before he met Emma. Jennifer gave birth to me and gave me up for adoption. And somehow, through some cosmic joke, I ended up being adopted by the family of the man who would eventually marry my half-sister. Emma had no idea. Our parents had no idea. David definitely had no idea. But now, I knew. I was Emma's stepdaughter, not her sister. And I was the biological child of the man she'd been married to for 15 years. I took photos of everything. The adoption papers, the DNA results, the lawyer's letter. Then I put the box back, exactly where I found it. And I started planning. See, Emma had been particularly cruel to me recently. Just 2 weeks before I found that box, she'd hosted this big family barbecue. And she'd introduced me to her neighbors like this. This is my sister Sarah. She's kind of the family disappointment. But we love her anyway. She said it with a smile, like it was a joke. But I saw her neighbors exchange those looks. You know the ones. Oh, that's awkward looks. And David, he just stood there, sipping his beer, saying nothing. So when Emma started planning this anniversary party, I decided it was time for the truth. I ordered my own DNA test, just to be absolutely sure. I used a different company, got independent results, and they confirmed everything. David Morrison was my biological father. The night of the party, I got there early. Emma was running around, making sure everything was perfect. Sarah, she said when she saw me, try not to, be yourself tonight. Mom and Dad's friends are coming, and I don't want them asking awkward questions about your situation. My situation. Like being unemployed and living in a studio apartment was contagious. Don't worry, Emma, I said, smiling sweetly. I'll be on my best behavior. She looked suspicious. Emma knew me well enough to know that, when I was being agreeable, something was wrong. But she was too busy playing hostess to dig deeper. The guests started arriving around 6. Aunts, uncles, family, friends, people I hadn't seen in years. Everyone was so happy to see each other. Hugging, laughing, sharing stories about Mom and Dad. And Emma, she was in her element. The perfect daughter, hosting the perfect party. She kept making these little speeches. About family. About love. About how grateful she was to have been raised by such wonderful parents. David stood next to her, nodding along. The supportive husband. I watched them from across the room. And I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just this cold, clear focus. Because I knew that in about 30 minutes, their perfect little world was going to explode. Emma called everyone to the living room around 8 o'clock. She wanted to make a toast to our parents. Family, she began, raising her wine glass, is everything. It's the foundation that shapes who we become. Mom and Dad, you gave me everything. Your love, your support, your unwavering belief that I could achieve anything. She paused, looked around the room. And even when life threw us unexpected challenges, her eyes found mine. Like when Sarah came along, 12 years later, you never made me feel like she was a burden. A few people chuckled, like it was sweet. But I heard what she was really saying. That I was the unexpected challenge. The burden they had to bear. So here's to Richard and Margaret, Emma continued, the most loving parents a daughter could ask for. Everyone raised their glasses. Cheers. And that's when I stood up. Actually, Emma, I said, my voice cutting through the celebration, before we drink to that, there's something everyone should know. Before I tell you what I did next, if you're enjoying the story, please subscribe. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers. The room went quiet. Emma's face shifted from confusion to irritation. Sarah, please, she said, forcing a smile. This isn't the time. Oh, I think this is the perfect time. I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope, the one containing 28 years of lies. Emma's eyes locked onto that envelope, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear in them. What is that? She stammered. I smiled. The same cold smile she'd been giving me for 28 years. This, Emma, is the truth. I opened the envelope slowly, deliberately. Let the tension build. 23 people, all staring at me. Waiting. You know, I said, looking around the room, Emma's always been so good at family history. She loves telling stories about how I came along, how I was the surprise baby. Emma's face was getting paler by the second. Sarah, stop, she whispered. Whatever you think you know, I know everything, Emma. I pulled out the first document, the adoption papers. See, I'm not actually the surprise baby. I'm adopted. A few gasps from the crowd. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. That's not. Mom started. It's okay, Mom, I said gently. I'm not angry about the adoption. You and Dad, you gave me a home. I'm grateful for that. I looked back at Emma. Her hands were shaking. But here's where it gets interesting. I pulled out the second document, the original DNA test from 1995. My birth mother was 17 when she had me. She'd been seeing 2 different guys and wasn't sure which one was the father. David, who had been standing behind Emma, suddenly went very, very still. So they did a paternity test. I held up the paper. Let everyone see it. And it turns out, my biological father is. I paused. Let the moment stretch. Emma was shaking her head. No, she whispered. No, no, no. David Morrison. The room exploded. Not with sound. With silence. The kind of silence that comes right before a bomb goes off. David's wine glass slipped from his hand. Shattered on the floor. That's impossible, Emma said, her voice barely audible. Is it though? I pulled out my recent DNA test results. Because I got curious. Did my own test. With a different company. Just to be sure. I walked over to David. He looked like he was going to throw up. David Morrison, I read from the paper, 99.7% probability of paternity. David opened his mouth. No words came out. Do you remember, David? I asked, my voice steady. Calm. Jennifer Williams? College? 1995. His face crumbled. Oh my God, he whispered. Oh my God. Emma turned to look at him. David? David. I didn't know, he stammered. I swear, Emma, I didn't know she was pregnant. We only dated for maybe 2 months. She never told me. But you remember her, I said. It wasn't a question. He nodded. Slowly. Emma started backing away from him. You had a baby? With some girl? And you never told me? I didn't know. David's voice was getting higher. Panicked. Emma, I swear to God, I had no idea. Aunt Carol, who had always been one of Emma's biggest supporters, was staring at me like she was seeing me for the first time. So Sarah is, she said slowly. David's daughter, I finished. Which makes me Emma's stepdaughter, not her sister. The math was hitting everyone at once. Emma had been married to my biological father for 15 years. She'd been calling her husband's daughter the mistake. She'd been treating her stepdaughter like garbage her entire life. This is insane, Emma said, her voice breaking. This can't be real. I pulled out my phone. Would you like me to call the DNA testing company? They're open 24 hours. We can verify everything right now. Emma's perfect composure finally cracked. You planned this, she hissed. You wanted to ruin everything. Just like you always do. The room was so quiet, you could hear people breathing. I plan to tell the truth, I said. Something this family hasn't been very good at. Mom was crying now. Dad looked like he was in shock. Sarah, honey, Mom said through her tears, we wanted to tell you about the adoption. We never found the right time. It's okay, Mom, I said. Really? The adoption isn't the problem here. I looked directly at Emma. The problem is that for 28 years, Emma has treated me like I was worth less than nothing. She's called me the mistake, the family disappointment, the burden you had to bear. My voice was getting stronger, clearer. She made sure I knew that I didn't belong, that I was unwanted. Emma's perfect mask was completely gone now. She looked small, broken. But it turns out, I continued, I'm not the mistake. I'm not the family disappointment. I looked around the room, at all those faces, all those people who had watched Emma treat me like garbage for years. I'm the only one here who's actually David's biological child. The words hit Emma like a physical blow, because Emma's two daughters weren't David's biological children at all. They were his stepchildren. And I, the mistake, was his only real daughter. Emma sank into a chair. This isn't happening, she whispered. This isn't real. But it was real. And everyone in that room knew it. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Emma's perfect world didn't just crack. It shattered. Within 24 hours, half the family was calling me. Not to apologize, but to manage the damage. Aunt Carol called first. Sarah, honey, she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, maybe we should keep this within the family. You know how people talk. People talk like I was the one who had done something wrong. Uncle Jim called next. Now, Sarah, he said, Emma's been going through a rough time. Maybe this isn't the best moment to air family business. Air family business. That's what they called 28 years of emotional abuse. But the calls that really broke my heart were from Emma's daughters. Lily, her oldest, called me crying. She was 13. Aunt Sarah, she sobbed into the phone, Mom won't stop crying. She says, you hate us now. I don't hate you, sweetheart, I told her. I love you. This has nothing to do with you. But are we not real family anymore? That question nearly destroyed me. Because that's what Emma had done. She'd made her own daughters believe that biology was the only thing that mattered. The same lie she'd been telling me my whole life. You are absolutely real family, I told Lily. David raised you. He chose you. He loves you. That makes you his daughter. Forever. I could hear her sniffling. Promise? I promise. But Emma wasn't handling it well. She sent me a text 3 days after the party. You destroyed everything. I hope you're happy. David moved out. The girls are confused and scared. 28 years of marriage gone. Because you couldn't just keep your mouth shut. I stared at that text for a long time. Then I wrote back. Emma, I didn't destroy your marriage. Your lies did. David didn't leave because I told the truth. He left because you spent 15 years watching him unknowingly hurt his own daughter. And you said nothing. She never responded to that text. But 2 weeks later, I got a call from David. Sarah, he said, his voice shaky, can we meet? For coffee? I need to talk to you. We met at this little cafe, downtown. David looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in days. I need you to know, he said, his hands wrapped around his coffee cup. I had no idea. About Jennifer. About the pregnancy. About you. I believed him. Because the David I knew, the man who had been married to Emma for 15 years, he wasn't cruel. Absent maybe. Passive. but not cruel. If I had known, he continued, I would have. I would have done things differently. What about now? I asked. He looked up at me. What do you mean? Now that you know, what are you going to do? David was quiet for a long time. I want to be your father, he said finally. If you'll let me. I know I can't make up for 28 years. But maybe we can start over. I felt tears prick my eyes. I'd like that, I whispered. Emma, of course, did not approve. She sent me another text. You're not satisfied with ruining my marriage. Now you want to steal my husband completely. Steal her husband. Like David was property. But the worst text came a week later. The girls want to see you. They miss their Aunt Sarah. But I told them, you don't want to be part of our family anymore. Since you think blood is more important than love. That text made me furious. Because Emma was using her own daughters as weapons. So I did something I'd never done before. I drove to Emma's house. She answered the door, looking like she hadn't showered in days. What do you want? She asked. I want to see my nieces. They're not your nieces. Remember? You made it very clear that biology is what matters. I pushed past her into the house. Lily, I called. Sophie. Both girls came running. They hugged me like they hadn't seen me in years. We missed you so much, Sophie said. She was only 9. Your mom told you. I didn't want to see you anymore. I asked. Both girls nodded. I looked at Emma. She was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. That was a lie, I told the girls. I love you both. So much. And nothing will ever change that. I turned to Emma. You want to be angry at me? Fine. You want to hate me? I can live with that. But don't, ever, use your children to hurt me again. Emma's face was stone cold. Get out of my house. This isn't over, I told her. And it wasn't. Because 3 weeks later, I got a call from Mom. Sarah, honey, she said, there's something you need to know. It turns out, Emma had been telling people a very different version of the story. In Emma's version, I had forged the DNA results. I was jealous of her perfect life and had made everything up to destroy her marriage. She'd been calling family members, friends, even people at David's work. Sarah's having some kind of breakdown, she told them. She's making up these elaborate lies because she can't handle being adopted. Mom found out when Aunt Carol called her. Margaret, Carol had said, I think Sarah needs help. Professional help. What she did to Emma, it's not normal. That's when Mom realized. Emma was trying to rewrite history. Again. So Mom made a decision. She called a family meeting. Everyone. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even some family friends. And she brought the original documents. The ones from my baby box. I want everyone to see these, Mom announced. Because there seems to be some confusion about what happened. She laid out the adoption papers. The DNA results from 1995. The lawyer's letters. Everything. Sarah didn't forge anything, Mom said, her voice shaking with anger. She found these documents in my attic. Documents I should have shown her years ago. The room was dead silent. Emma has been lying to all of you. And more importantly, she's been lying to herself. Mom looked directly at Aunt Carol. My daughter, my adopted daughter, told the truth. And instead of supporting her, you all chose to protect Emma's lies. One by one, people started calling me to apologize. But Emma? Emma doubled down. She sent me one final text. You'll never be my sister. You'll never be part of this family. And one day, when you're alone and miserable, you'll realize that destroying me was the biggest mistake of your life. I read that text and I started laughing. Because Emma still didn't get it. I hadn't destroyed her. The truth had destroyed her. And after 28 years, the truth felt pretty good. It's been 6 months now since that night, and my life is completely different. David and we have coffee every Sunday. We're still figuring out how to be father and daughter, but we're trying. He tells me stories about my birth mother, Jennifer. Turns out, she was a lot like me. Quiet, creative, stubborn as hell. She would have been. So proud of you, he said last week. For standing up for yourself. Standing up for myself. Something I'd never learned how to do. Emma and we don't talk anymore. But her daughters, Lily and Sophie, they still call me. David makes sure of that. They need their Aunt Sarah, he told Emma. And if you try to stop them from seeing her, you'll lose them too. So every other weekend, the girls come stay with me in my little studio apartment. We make pancakes, watch movies, and I tell them stories about their mom when she was younger. The good stories. Because despite everything, Emma is still their mother. And they deserve to love her, without guilt. Mom and Dad moved to Arizona as planned. But before they left, Mom pulled me aside. I'm sorry, she said, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry we never told you about the adoption. I'm sorry we let Emma treat you the way she did. It's okay, Mom. No, she said firmly. It's not okay. We were your parents. We were supposed to protect you. And we failed. She hugged me tight. But I'm proud of you for protecting yourself. The family reunion became family legend. People still talk about it. Some people think I was cruel, that I should have handled it privately. But here's what I learned. Some truths are too big for privacy. Some lies have gone on too long to be whispered. And sometimes, the only way to heal is to let everything break first. Emma lost her marriage, but she gained the opportunity to build a real one. Based on honesty, David lost his perfect family image, but he gained a daughter he never knew he had. I lost my sister, but I found myself. And maybe that's the most important thing of all. Because for 28 years, I believed I was the mistake, the accident, the burden, the family disappointment. But I wasn't any of those things. I was just a little girl who needed love. And now, finally, I'm getting it. From the right people. The people who choose to see my worth. If you liked this story, check out this other one on the screen. It's about a woman who discovered her husband had been living a double life for 10 years. Trust me, you won't believe what she did about it. See you there.